Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Wallace. I just wanted to give you a little bit of context for the presentation tomorrow. This is the presentation during reading day where we'll be visited by a Vietnam veteran. So just a little bit of context for you. I'm going to try to keep this brief just in case you haven't had a chance to learn about the Vietnam conflict or the Vietnam War. So a few things, because this veteran is going to be speaking at the about the Battle of Yadran, which happens in 1965. So we'll see if we can set that up a little bit so you have a little bit of some context. There would be quite a bit of acronyms that get used in the Vietnam War, so I put a few of them here. For example, the Viet Minh, which is really the kind of administrative political communist government that's in the North, created by Ho Chi Minh, who's the leader of the North. The Republic of Vietnam, created by Ho Chi Minh, in 1945. This is something that ultimately will become, North Vietnam. There's also the Viet Cong, which is Southern insurgents, and a political arm, which is the National Liberation Front. So there's a great deal of kind of connection to North Vietnam. And then there's also ARVN, which is the Army of the Republic of Vietnam. This would become the Army for South Vietnam. This is the army that the United States is going to be supporting in the Vietnam War. A little bit with just some broad brush types of history. Vietnam is going to be part of Indochina with Laos and Cambodia, and is a French colony for a good number of years from the late 1800s. And it's a French colony until the French finally leave in 1954. In between that French colonial history in 1941, we do see Vietnam occupied by Japan, and it's actually in this particular time that the United States and the Vietnamese work together to try to oust Japan from Vietnam. And by 1941, also, the Viet Minh is founded by Ho Chi Minh. It is a communist, Marxist-Leninist, based organization. And it is fairly interested in independence for Vietnam. It's really an independence movement. It's opposing the Japanese and looking to remove the French, to have Vietnam for Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh will finally declare Vietnam's independence in 1945. Other countries don't recognize it. France will refuse and will fight to continue its colonial control over Vietnam. And the United States ultimately is not going to recognize Ho Chi Minh's state because it's communist. And China had become communist in 1949. So the United States is in a period where it's fearing communism because there's a fear that it's spreading Soviet-era communism, and that's threatening to American sphere of influence. This is Ho Chi Minh, not his real name, but is what he's called, and he's the leader of the Viet Minh, the leader of what becomes North Vietnam. There is a war between the French and the Vietnamese, and largely it is a brutal war. It's a war with a great deal of losses. But the Vietnamese, who are very much outnumbered and under-equipped, are incredibly determined, and ultimately we do see France will lose the war at Dien Bien Phu, which happens in 1954. So without going into a lot of that, the French ultimately are beaten out of Vietnam, and this becomes an opportunity for Ho Chi Minh, for the Vietnamese independence movement, because there becomes an opportunity to push France out and to have an independent Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh, during the time period of World War I, had been at the Treaty of Versailles trying to create, some discussion around an independent Vietnam. So it's like a long-term goal that there had been for Ho Chi Minh. So the French are going to be captured, and this leads to a peace settlement after the fall of Dien Bien Phu, and the Geneva Peace Accords happen in 1954. This is largely between the Viet Minh and the French. But other countries are also present, at the peace accords, including Cambodia and Laos, the United States, the Soviet Union, China, and Britain. And basically, there are terms of this peace. In order to kind of create a situation that ideally is going to lead to peace, there's a decision to divide Vietnam into the northern and southern section. And there's like actual time given for people to move. So communists in the north, Southerners in the south. And so, for example, we get individuals who are Catholic, move from the north to the south. And so there's like a migration period. The northern leader will be Ho Chi Minh, and the southern leader, there's actually two individuals, Bao Dai and Diem. Both of the leaders are going to basically fight for power, but there is to be held elections in 1956. By 1955, no elections are going to be held. Diem becomes the leader. He deposes Bao and becomes the president. Diem is not largely popular, but he does get supported initially by the United States. There are no elections because he was unpopular and would not have won. The north of Vietnam does declare war on the south, and there is some sense that the United States needs to get involved in order to stop communism from spreading. President Eisenhower, who you can see in the photo on the left, sends several hundred military advisors to basically work with Diem and the South Vietnamese army in an effort to try to create a way in which they'll be able to push back the northern Vietnamese. By the time we get to President Kennedy, just before he's assassinated in 1963, we get more military advisors. These are largely not combat troops, but individuals who are working directly with the South Vietnamese. The Diem political system in the southern part of Vietnam gets increasingly not popular, and this creates a lot of problems for the United States. The photo of a Buddhist monk who had essentially set himself on fire in protest, and you can see all the other monks in the background of the photo. It's a horrific photo, but this is a protest against the leader of South Vietnam in South Vietnam because there was a great number of laws that were detrimental to Buddhists. Diem was promoting Catholicism and not giving, Buddhists a chance to freely practice their religion. And so this was a protest against that. There was also a great deal of corruption, a lot of ways in which there was money used, familial power, secret police, and things like that. So the people in South Vietnam were not happy with Diem, and Kennedy decided that there was not going to be success with Diem, and the United States is actually involved in a very large plot to overthrow and assassinate the leader of South Vietnam. And then Kennedy himself is assassinated on November 22nd. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, just a few things about the Gulf of Tonkin incident, and we get into President Johnson after the assassination of President Kennedy. Lyndon Baines Johnson is sworn in on Air Force One, and we actually have what some historians will argue becomes an incident that perhaps President Johnson uses in an effort to try to get the United States more heavily into the war. There is a U.S. vessel that seemingly is peaceful and seemingly is attacked by North Vietnamese boats in the Gulf of Tonkin. In reality, we now know the United States was spying on the North, and the United States Navy was largely involved in some South Vietnamese operations. But there was a decision to make retaliatory strikes on North Vietnam. And as a result of this incident, we get what's called the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. There had already been a Selective Service Act, so the draft, quote unquote, was in the law. So there were lots of men, who were of age, who were registering for the draft. The lottery style draft, where numbers just got called and placed on TV screens, comes about in 1969, and that's looked at as a much more fair way of doing the draft, because in the earlier version of the draft, which is in place for a long time, like since World War II, the draft that was in place, you could have a lot of exemptions. So, for example, college was an exemption. Some jobs were exemptions. So some men were drafted. Everyone signed up for the draft, but lots of men were not drafted because of some sort of exemption. But the Gulf of Tonkin incident created the impetus for a resolution in Congress where the Gulf of Tonkin resolution suggests that there is a role for the president to take any steps necessary in order to ensure freedom of some of the Southeast Asian nations, and basically, giving Lyndon Johnson a little bit of a blank check to escalate the war in Vietnam, which he does do. So we see the numbers of soldiers drafted increase because the number of soldiers in Vietnam will increase. This just gives you a sense. In 1961 to 1963, time period of John F. Kennedy, a few military advisors, something to the tune of a few thousand, maybe a few tens of thousands. But by 1964 and the jump into 1965, the Battle of Yadran is going to happen here in this time period of 1965. So it's really in the beginning of American combat troop, and it is a large-scale military invasion where, again, soldiers are going to be dropped by helicopter. This is looked at as like a cavalry type of mission onto a landing zone of about the size of a football field. And there is a large-scale North Vietnamese base nearby, and they're going to assault the U.S. soldiers. And we see, kind of from 1965, what happens into the war. The troops just continue to escalate. A few things that maybe terms of I can kind of showcase here. One thing might be the map. I just wanted to put on this map just to showcase a little bit of where the Yadran Valley is. This is an entire map of northern and southern Vietnam. The Yadran Valley is right here, kind of on the border with Cambodia. You can see some other things that maybe would be important on the map. Hanoi all the way in the north, Saigon all the way in the south, and the Mekong Delta, some other areas. But we're looking at this region right here, kind of on the border with Cambodia. And there's a couple of, sources online. I will kind of share one with you. And just kind of note a few things about the source. This is an image, so you can kind of see some of the landscape. There's tall grass in this area of Vietnam. They call it elephant grass. But, a lot of American soldiers, once landed, had very little cover. And because of the type of weaponry that was used, the best bet for a soldier is basically to lay low and try to stay, completely hidden. But there's a good number of soldiers, American soldiers, who are killed. And so the Battle of Yadran Valley is very significant because it is an eye-opening experience for both sides. Americans really learn the degree of the military challenge they have in fighting the North Vietnamese, who were outstanding soldiers, incredibly well-trained, and had very significant weaponry. And, likewise, the North Vietnamese also learn about some of the U.S. Ability to have some air cover, a variety of different, and we see this is a battle where there's not only machine gun power, there's also going to be a great deal of napalm used, a great deal of air bombings, and also hand-to-hand combat in some cases. So really a horrific battle. But I hope that this gives you a little bit of an intro to the context, and I will see you in class tomorrow. Okay, be well, everyone.